Awesome. All right, welcome everyone to another lecture. Okay, today I'll be showing several or maybe only one best game I've played in my life in the London opening. And the London has been super popular lately. You've been probably seeing it like all around the place. And it's just a nice kind of lazy way of playing with the white pieces, but if you know how to play it well, I think you can definitely make it a big deal. So, and this is also my best win of my career so far, so it should be interesting in my opinion. So combining one of my favorite openings, one of the lazy openings with my best win, I think is the best way to go. So okay, for those who do not know, the London opening starts with d4, knight f6, bishop f4. So a slight backstory to this game. This was played in the Turkish league, and I was playing for the board 1 of my team. And so I usually play like e4 or d4 or anything of that sort. And I was really having a tough time sort of preparing against my opponent, since he's super experienced, above 2700 before Grandmaster, European champion, so he has a lot of experience against e4, d4 in any opening actually. So during the lunchtime, I go up to one of my teammates. He plays the London for his whole life, and I'm like, what would you recommend? Like, what shall I do? And I actually know the answer. He's gonna say the London. I just wanted to justify my take of playing the London. So he's like, yeah, just go play London. And then I'm like, okay, so somebody else recommends it, so I'll just play the London. So basically, I did some prep, and it was tough to guess what my opponent's going to do. I was just in a more calm mindset just to play something and get out of the opening and just see how it goes. So he goes e6, e3, c5, knight d2, just normal developing moves, knight c6, knight f3, d5, c3. So we get like one of the most mainline positions of the London. Of course, there are other lines too, which I'm not gonna like go too much in detail, but of course my opponent could have played anything else, but he played this line at that point. This is like 2018. He played this cd4, ed4, knight h5 line, and this was a big theory back then. It still is. It's one of the most played responses from the black side. Of course, the main line probably is bishop d6, where white usually goes bishop back to g3. White can castle, and then here black can castle, and white has like two moves, bishop b5 or bishop d3. So it's up to you basically what you want to do. And then the whole point of, let's say, something like bishop d3 is to go like queen e2 and then like e4. So try to attack on the king side somehow. This is our perspective, and this is what we're trying to do with white. Of course, we would be happy if our opponents ever take on g3, because we take with the h-pawn, and we have this massive attack on h7. So black players usually don't do that. They try to do other things, but that's not how the game went. So I'm not going to make you guys lose too much time. I'll show you the fun part. So I cd, ed, knight h5. Here, once again, we have, I believe, multiple moves, bishop g5 and bishop e3. At that time, my preparation was bishop e3, so I played that and bishop d6. So what does black want? Black is saying, okay, I'm just going to develop, and if you ever go something like bishop d3, I'm going to jump knight f4. Attack your bishop, attack your pawn, and you do have to give up your dark squared bishop. So after this, takes. This is probably good for black. So what I did, still in my prep, I played this move, knight e5. So what's the idea of knight e5? At this moment, I'm attacking the knight on h5, and I'm also maybe putting some pressure here, and definitely blocking this bishop, so there is no knight f4 jumps, right? So the trick is, if black takes on e5 with the knight, I can simply go d takes e5. Now I'm attacking this guy and that guy, and you cannot defend one of the pieces, so you lose the game. So instead, if you take with the bishop, for example, now I can take the bishop, and now your knight is kind of stuck. Even though you can go g6 or something like this, you're not losing a piece, you're just not doing great because you gave up your dark squared bishop. So what they often played, and that's what my opponent played, is the move g6. So he's defending the he's defending his knight and attacking my knight on e5. So here multiple moves. There's this move f4, which is not bad, and there's this move which I played, knight f3, defending the knight. And in this moment my opponent played the move f6, attacking my knight here. So this is probably the first critical moment, because my opponent was definitely in his prep, so he knew what he was doing, kind of. And I was trying to remember what I did here, but I couldn't exactly remember. I played the move very quickly, actually. And after that moment, my opponent started thinking and spending a lot of time. So I'm going to ask the viewers, actually, on what they think the move should be in this position. There is in-person attendance, there's online attendance. I think, yep, the Twitch chat is smart. So they're recommending this move g4. They want to leave this knight hanging. And yeah, if you have seen my games a little bit, so if you were here in any of the streams before, you know that I like to sacrifice things, I like to give pieces for free. I mean, of course, there's an idea behind it usually, but yeah, so knight takes c6 would be the most logical move, but after b takes, I wasn't really having it, because black's gonna go e5 next move, and this is not gonna be great. So here I played actually the move g4, attacking the knight. So okay, this is not really what we teach when we start playing chess. Don't like push your pawns. But again, the idea is like if you get to a certain level and you're like a grandmaster, it's also very important to know when you should break the common rules. Because if you play every move just by the book, then there will be no difference. Everyone's going to play well. So g4 is the move I played. My opponent played knight back, and here I took the knight and played this move h4. So all of this makes sense. I am kind of attacking on the flank. There is nothing hanging, but in this moment my opponent played the move e5. And now this is where the fun begins, because they are attacking our pawn, and we have to do something about it. So, and someone is asking on the YouTube chat, is this live? This is live, yeah. This is very live. Live in person, live on YouTube, live on Twitch. So, what do? Opponent is attacking opponent is attacking our pawn. It's not a replay, no. Someone is saying rook over, I guess this one. Someone is saying push the pawn, but guys, we have 7 pawns. If you say push the pawn, I can understand this, or I can understand that, or this, or this, or that. There are plenty of pawns. So which pawn are we talking? At some point it will be a replay, yes. g5, yeah, g5 is the most tempting move probably, right? Because it's being attacked. Well, one of the problems with g5 is our opponent can jump their knight to this square. So for example, if I go g5, my opponent might respond with something like e4, attack this knight, and then I have to go back at some point. Although I can probably take here, and then they take. It's also possible, I would say, like I can jump knight e5, maybe with the idea to give up this knight. So this looks like a free pawn, right? Take, 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 and take. But I would rather have the dark square control here than have this pawn. But I don't think anyone's going to take this knight. They might just jump like knight here or something. I'm not sure. It's just quite annoying with how this knight came from g7 to f5, and it might land on e3, and not really what I wanted to do. So I didn't play g5. Let's see who can calculate, because I mean, you can see the move. you can find the move, but calculating the move and understanding is actually quite difficult. Knowing it and seeing it in the computer is one thing, but understanding how difficult it is something else. So d takes e5 being suggested. Well, I don't really want to take, because after takes, then they're going to take on g4. So it's quite annoying, actually, to give up this center like that. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to give my opponent the center while I control nothing of it. All right, so what else? Let me see the chat. g5, we talk, d5. Yeah, so none of that. It's kind of a difficult move, I would say, if you can calculate a little bit far and you're not sure of what's happening. When I played it, my opponent spent a lot of time. Like, I was actually up a lot of time as soon as this position arrived. Like e5, I made a move, I had like over 1 hour 30 minutes, which is the starting time, and my opponent was just losing all his time. He was spending a lot of time. Bishop h3, no. g5 is not that great. Here I played the move h5. I sacrificed my pawn on g4. But this is actually a very challenging move to make, I would say, because it hangs the pawn on g4. And what happens if bishop takes g4? The idea is actually to take on g6. But in this position, my opponent can play the move e4, which actually is what happened in the game. I played the move h5, my opponent played e4, and here I actually ignored it and I took the pawn on g6. I sacrificed my knight. And my idea is that if you take my knight, I'm going to take on h7, and then if you take or something, I'm going to take back. I'm threatening to promote. And remember, this is just the h-pawn that went all the way to h7, and it's about to promote. And let's say my opponent stops promotion with something like king f7. Now I take here. I have like multiple pawns. Let's say this one too, which is a different pawn. I have multiple pawns for my opponent's extra knight, but his king is also not safe. And I'm going to finish my development, develop my bishop, bring the rook in, and I'm going to try to go after his king. And most likely, he's not going to be able to complete any of his piece development, and he's going to get mated very soon. Because although you're up an extra piece is useless if you cannot utilize your extra piece. So I'm all about initiative and attack and everything, even if it's in the sake of giving up a knight or something. That is totally fine, as long as the attack has a purpose and the purpose can be achieved without giving up everything. You can give up everything as long as you don't lose the game. So yeah, it is quite, and actually it's one of my best games. So maybe the best. I don't know. So my opponent played bishop g4. This is where the tricky part is. Like seeing this in advance, because I cannot move this knight. Like, he's not going to give me this opportunity of picking up this pawn on f3 too. So that's why when I played h5, my opponent was like at first surprised, right? They just like took a second. They're like, okay, it's just a free piece. And then they notice it's actually not a free piece. So how does the line go here? Rook h7, yeah, that's definitely the move I want to play, right? But what happens after, let's say my opponent takes, and then moves the king, let's say to f7. So they are preventing promotion with the queen. So what do I do here? And imagine you see this from a distance. This is where the trick actually becomes, because if you don't see it from a distance, then it's like not that important, not that impressive, because like when I'm showing it, of course you know it worked out, because that's how chess is played. I'm not going to show something that didn't work out. But it did work out. But here, when you mix up your theory, when you play this move, you don't know if it's going to work out. And I had to remember or recall or calculate, whichever it is, that I have to like win in that position or something. So I saw all of that from there. And yeah, he played rook g8 actually, which is mentioned in the chat, but the idea after takes king f7 is I have this move knight g5, right? I can give knight g5 check, and after pawn takes, I take the bishop. This is common tactic where enemy king is knight check away, right? Or knight e5 also possible, by the way, and then I take the bishop. So this is cool, interesting, smart. So king d7, also another move, right? Which the queen protects h8. Same idea, knight e5 check. And then after pawn takes, I take. Good, easy. The final one, the slightly tricky one, right? My opponent can go king e7. He doesn't have to run into any of the checks. Like a smart player would probably see that king f7, king d7 runs into check and queen g4. And my opponent is 2684, right? He was 27 plus maybe 1 or 2 months ago before this game. So very respectable player. So what after king e7 though? My knight is still pinned. I cannot move it. I mean, I can, but my queen is hanging. And it's under attack. So what do I do now? The idea is not that different, actually. Some suggestion is unpin it with bishop e2. Well, you don't unpin it, right? You don't really unpin anything. He just takes it. It's his move. He's not going to let you have it. Queen b3 is actually quite interesting. So the idea is to give a check from here. But remember that even if I take it this way, if you give a check, I can actually block with the bishop if I really care. Or what I can also do is take with the pawn, and if you give me a check, I can block with this bishop. So I'm not really forced to like give up my rook or something. But yes, you guys are right. You guys are correct. The move here is the move knight e5. I sacrifice my queen and my knight both at the same time. If you take my knight, we have seen this idea where I take your bishop. And if you take my queen, I play knight takes c6 check. You have to move your king somewhere. I take your queen check. After rook takes, I take this with the king or with the rook. And then you go take my pawn. And we play. The game is, as far as I remember, I'll check it again with the computer. The advantage is less than +1. It used to be. It's around +1 because white is up a pawn. So it's about +1. Yeah, it's 1.1. 0.8. So all that craziness happens, and then you get 0.7 up a pawn endgame, where it's not that clear if you're gonna win or not. This was frustrating to see, but also my opponent's burning so much time. Like he's calculating and calculating, and he doesn't know like what's happening and what's going on and why would it be good, bad, what is the best way to play. Nobody knows. Of course, after the game I check with an engine, it's clear. I don't know how many of you were here in the last stream, but anyways, so here my opponent played this move rook g8. But actually I was thinking that the best move from my opponent would be castles. So let's see if any of you can guess the move in this position. He can castle, yeah, he can castle. It's legal. No, it's not illegal. It's legal. What do you mean illegal? That is very legal. Anyways, so how do we play this position? This move also has a story. So I can our team, and we're analyzing this game because I'm super proud. I beat like a 2700 player, and of course like it was a very fancy game also, so we're like talking about it, and I'm like, but I wasn't sure what would I play in this position if my opponent castled short. And then we discuss a bunch of moves, and my friend just suggests, why don't you play this move? And I'm like, okay, it's funny, it's all nice and everything, but it's not gonna work. But then we look at it and then we realize that yes, that was the best move. So Best move or one of the fancy moves? So let's see if anyone's gonna guess this one. The reason I said, I don't know if you were here on the last one, it's kind of related actually. So let's see if anyone is gonna pick up the idea. Probably not, because I didn't give any context of the previous stream. But yeah, it's a nice move. I will give you guys, but okay, some players are gonna get it because they might remember. But I'm gonna give you guys some time to guess. Make random guesses. I see many guesses like bishop h6, knight g5, and you can take your time and continue guessing moves. C4 is another guess. So there are 3 guesses so far. I see. There is a rook sack, which I'm assuming it's something like this or that. I'm not sure which one is the referred one. I don't think it's easy to guess this move. I mean, okay, many moves probably win here, but this move is if I had the chance to play it, I would play it. If, of course, assuming I saw it. But I didn't need to see it, to be honest. Knight g5. No. I'm not even catching the idea of knight g5, to be honest. Knight g5, what happens if I take the queen? What's the point? I don't understand it. Because like, I guess what you guys want to do is sacrifice the rook and then take the queen. But you guys are sacking way too much, right? You just sacked all your pieces for what? Like, you guys are giving up all my pieces. Just because it's mine doesn't mean you can sacrifice. Bishop h3 is interesting. Bishop h3 is interesting. But then my opponent's going to take my knight. Right? So it's not that. Queen d2 is also very interesting. So you're trying to bring the queen into the game. I think, I mean, I'm pretty sure most of the moves suggested are good. But yeah, it's not quite working. It's interesting position. Yeah, I mean, they might be working, by the way, but the move I'm looking for is not none of those. Like, even if they're good, I want something completely different from this position, and I want somebody to write it in the chat, because I honestly like it when someone finds the move, although they might have just guessed it or just did like an educated guess, or they just randomly wrote all the moves and it happened to be the best move. Okay, yeah, see, so we have some people understanding the point. So how can we try to get to this king? We want the queen on the h-file. This is what we want. We need this queen somewhere here, and actually we want it there. But for me to put the queen there, I need to get rid of my bishop, I need to get rid of my king. So the move is actually the crazy king d2. And okay, who would understand this move, king d2? Well, king d2 is super powerful, because if you take here, now I go bishop d3, I develop my bishop, I want to go queen h1, and I'm actually completely winning. Yeah, king d2 is not a human move, but it makes a lot of sense. And after bishop takes f3, now I'm just going to go bishop e2. My point is to trade the bishops, and after you take my bishop, I take your bishop back, and my idea is to play rook a to h1, and my king is perfectly safe, and your king is definitely not safe. And this game is probably going to end with mate. King d2 or king e3 is your favorite move? So you saw the last stream, or maybe you went back to the last stream, checked it out, and then came back. Okay, king d2, definitely a fun move, right? Like, I'm a big fan of playing g4 and h4, but to be honest, king d2 might actually be my favorite move. Maybe I should think about it. Maybe I should think about what's my favorite move. So yeah, actually this is definitely winning, and I don't think there is any other lines here that I want to show. Yeah, so king d2 is the win. Yeah. So my opponent played this move, rook g8. d3, king d2, that's my upcoming repertoire now, and then c3, king c2, and it should be solid. All right, but what do we do now? So castles, we understand, king d2 is genius and it wins somehow, but the game is far from over, because my opponent played rook g8, and my knight is still pinned, and none of the fancy knight e5, knight g5, none of that works anymore. I can try to play bishop h6, but then my opponent might go knight f5. So how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? This guy's pinned. I'm not happy it's pinned. That knight is gone. That's for sure. At least it's kind of gone. Yeah, very good. Queen a4 for counterplay, exactly. So I want to take this, right? If you take my knight or something, or maybe take with the pawn, it's not going to matter. It's either way the same. I go queen c6 check. You have to go king here. Oh, this is actually nice. I take on d5. I'm threatening mate. And the problem here is that for you to stop the mate, you either have to use your queen or your bishop. If you defend with the queen on the 7th rank, anywhere, defending this guy, your rook will hang. So your queen cannot defend both mate and the rook, unless it goes to e8, but if it goes to e8, then the bishop on d6 will fall. So the queen cannot defend without losing the rook or the bishop. So the queen is overloaded. The other defense you can make is bishop back to e6. You can attack my queen and stop the mate, which makes sense. So what do you do now? How do you proceed? You need to make something, right? You need to attack. If you go like take this pawn, you might still win, of course. It makes sense. But there is even a better move. There is even a much better move here. Absolutely. Queen takes e6. We sack the queen. We are sacking all sorts of pieces. We don't want to keep any piece on the board. We're just sacking. If he takes, check, king e8, bishop b5 check, queen d7, I take the queen, I take the knight, I take everything, and my opponent has to resign because I took everything. And I'm up a bishop, and I'll probably be up more material soon. So, opponent cannot take my knight. So what do? They play this move, rook c8. They defend their pawn, and they're attacking my knight. And here I played the move knight d2. In this position, I had to rescue my knight because I could have tried to play queen a7, threatening checkmate, but this would have been a mistake because my opponent's going to go rook c7, defend the mate, attack my queen, and then win my knight. So this is not possible. My opponent played the move, I played knight d2, and he played knight f5. Okay, now what? Like, the dust kind of settled. Like, there is no mate. I secured my knight. My opponent's kind of under attack because he just played the knight f5 move. But he's actually threatening much more than that. If I play a random move, my opponent wants to take my bishop, and after I recapture, he wants to checkmate me on g3. So the danger is actually real. And I need to take care of that somehow. I cannot just play any random move that comes to my hand and hope that I'm fine. Yeah, my opponent is threatening knight takes. So bishop b5 is a suggestion, which actually is interesting. I've never seen this suggestion before, actually. What about I go knight e7 though? It's an interesting move, but what happens if I play knight e7 with the idea of taking here and also maybe taking there? Interesting suggestion. Never, like, I've analyzed this game a couple of times in my life and never thought of bishop b5. It's very, very interesting. So rook sack, but yeah, you're sacrificing a bit too much, and I'm going to take with the king. I don't see the mate. I don't see any mate here. I think we over-sacrificed. Like here, there is definitely no mate here. I can take and just be fine. I mean, maybe this is not the best way, but like the best move might be like bishop e6 or something, right? I'm just giving up too much material. Bishop a6, interesting. Bishop a6, rook c7 maybe, right? I can try to trade this rook off somehow, and I'm still like building pressure. Bishop e2 is a possibility. Yeah, we don't get mated if I play bishop e2, but remember, I'm not really the player who like defends. You guys are thinking too defensive. Like, we have been sacrificing queens and rooks and like knights and everything, and you guys are telling me to like back off and just run away from opponent's threat. If my opponent makes a threat, I will run away with it, but I'm not gonna run away with it like that, right? Yeah, see now that I give you guys hints, you guys understand how it should be done, right? Knight takes e4. Another piece sacrifice, which is great. But how does this work? Or why does it work actually? So it's just free piece, right? What happens if my opponent takes? That's question number one. What do you do? Who even cares if you sack the knight if you do not have like any backup to it? How do we proceed? Let's see if anyone has it. Queen a7, e5, you mean d5. Okay, but queen c4 is a suggestion. They're trying to do this, which I like. I like queen c4. So queen c4, your idea is checkmate, and your idea is to take this rook. And if your opponent goes something like knight e7, okay, now we can take this knight. If you take with the bishop or the queen, your rook is hanging. So at least I recover my rook. And if you take it with the king, queen f7 is checkmate. So we sacrifice even more and more to checkmate the opponent. Great. Everything looks fantastic, right? Okay. But I will give you guys a challenge. What happens if my opponent takes on e3? What do we do now? This should be calculated very critically, I would say. Because if you make a slight mistake, you might actually end up losing the game. So, yes, I'm slightly making it easier on all of you by not making you calculate all of this when I played knight takes e4 without moving the pieces. But I'm just going to move it just to make it easier. So what do I do now? Well, what's the idea of black? Well, the idea is quite simple, actually. If I take, they're going to take, and they're up a knight. And if I take to regain my material, well, my king is under danger. I can't go to the light squares, I have to go to the dark square. Queen f2 check. Well, I cannot really go up there because of mate. I mean, it's going to be mate. And I cannot go back because you're just going to take all my pieces and it's not going to be funny anymore. You can even take here. And I can try with some last hope to threaten checkmate, but I'll be the one getting checkmated first. So, that's not good either. So what do? Am I lost? I'm not lost, of course. I can take the knight. But then they take my knight. And this is another very key moment. How do we play with the white pieces? We're down a piece. We cannot castle because of this bishop. I cannot castle. I cannot put my king to safety. Right? I cannot do that. I'm clearly down a bishop. My only hope is to like checkmate him. Maybe not only hope, but that's a good hope to have. But what do I play? How do I try to get to his king? King d2. Okay, you guys are overdoing it. Flag him. No. Not king d2. I love the king d2 suggestion. So whenever I stream, you guys are just going to suggest king d2 from now on, which is fantastic. It's great to know that I put this like king d2 feeling in everyone, but no, king d2 is not the move. Queen c4 is suggested, queen b3 is suggested. So what's the difference? What is the difference between these two? Oops. I'll tell you, there is a big difference. One of them is good, the other one is bad. There is a huge difference, actually. And it's up to the viewers to figure that out. But see the nuances? Like, I have to see all that when I'm playing an actual game when I go knight takes e4. Otherwise, I would just be giving up a free knight and then just hoping for the best. But once you are a GM, you don't really always want to hope for the best. Sometimes you do, but it's not an everyday thing. We generally like to calculate and make sure our moves make sense. So what do you do now? Queen b3, obviously. Why? Why not queen c4? Why do we not want to go? Queen b3, you can go queen b7. Yes and no. That makes sense. But yeah, royal fork, got it. That's exactly the more specific reasoning. Queen b3 is the best move. Because if queen c4, it would be bishop g3 check, king d2, and then queen d5. So what's the difference? Because queen d5 would just block the mate and the diagonal. But if I do this with queen b3, and if you give me a check and go queen d5, here I can play this move bishop c4. Now I'm attacking your queen and actually doing much more damage here. You can try to go queen here. Maybe some ideas with queen f2. So what do? We want to stop our opponent from playing what they want, rook f1. We stop that. And yes, my opponent can take here, but then I would play this move bishop f7 check, and I win the game. So that's not possible either. So what did my opponent do? He saw all this, and then he played this move bishop back to e7. He's like, okay, I am not gonna let you do this to me. I'm gonna retreat, and I'm gonna attack your knight on e4. Now I am threatening your knight. And I was like, are you sure you're threatening my knight? Told him, you can take it. If he takes it, it's the same idea, queen b3. Exact same idea. And I'm trying to do that. Or actually maybe even better, not even queen b3, I can maybe even go bishop c4 in this case to try to get to his rook, because maybe there's no mate, but this one is for sure good. So my opponent plays the move queen b6. He's like, I actually don't want your knight. Your knight is gonna hang, and I'm maybe gonna run away from here somewhere, right? Maybe I'll run away. Okay, I was like, yeah, you're right. By the way, my opponent has like 2 minutes or something. I have like over maybe 40 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever. I don't remember exactly like minute by minute play, but I have a lot of time. He has like maybe 5 minutes left or not. So what do? This is how the London is supposed to be. That's why I'm showing this game, because I feel like London is super underrated, but if you play it like this, then London is super overrated. It's too strong, you know? All right, so we have some great suggestions in the chat. b4, no, not b4. b4 is too defensive, because yes, my opponent is threatening queen b2, but it's against our spirit, you know, to defend against their threats. We defend only with active play. We don't want to defend with like passive retreats or stuff like that. So the move rook takes e7 was suggested, which is a brilliancy. Though normally what I do is, of course, you would have to calculate this, right? You cannot just play rook e7 and then if I approve, it's all good. There is so much happening behind the scenes of this rook takes e7. Like in a real game, you would actually think about it a bit more. And another great suggestion, by the way, which actually is the first move I looked at, is this move queen a3. And it's like, it's amazing. It's a fantastic move, but there is only a small flaw to it, is that my knight is hanging, because I was hanging this whole time. But if my knight's not hanging, my opponent cannot take my queen, because I go knight takes f6 check. And if he goes there, I go rook f7 mate. And if king goes to d8, Then I go rook d7 mate. So this alone would have been a fantastic game by itself. But queen a3, unfortunately, does not do it, because after queen a3, d takes e4, and I resign. Doesn't work. Right? Another interesting move can be something like queen a6, but that's not sufficient. So what happens after rook e7? Okay, knight, you can take with the knight, but the problem to that is I can go knight f6 and then take the bishop or the rook or whatever I feel like, but I have at least two pieces. So he has to take with the king. Okay, now what? How do we proceed? How do I make use of this attack? My knight is under attack. I need to do something about it. And it's not as straightforward as we want it to be. Queen a3 again. Okay, queen a3 makes sense. The idea is that if the king goes anywhere, I'm going to take here, right? So what my opponent can play is the move c5. And now what do? I can take it with the knight. I can take it with the pawn. I can do other things too. So what do? Again, I have plenty of time on the clock, and my opponent is like, in second, I thought, as far as I remember, he had like a minute or something. My opponent had maybe a little bit over a minute or something, but definitely not more, maybe 2 minutes. I'm not sure though. Somebody might have to check the broadcast from the day. So I was super tempted actually with one move, and I kept on trying to make it work. Yeah, I was tempted to go DC, right? This is what I was calculating the whole time, with the idea if something like queen c6, I can play like bishop b5. And I was like stuck with this thing, and there's quite a lot maybe happening. But yeah, there is king d8 at the end, and there's nothing. So I'm thinking, and here even like knight d6 is good, you know? It's not like mate or anything, but it's still winning. But then what I realized is after dc5, my opponent can play this move queen e6, pinning my knight, and it's annoying. It's annoying because I don't know how to like continue. I can give a check, but I don't think this leads to anything if he goes simply like king e8 or something. And I don't see the way forward. Like, yes, I'm super close. Yes, it's almost mate and I'm like almost winning, but almost is not, unfortunately, enough. Like, we have to either be winning or not winning. There is nothing in the middle in this situation because I'm down an exchange. I'm going to be down a knight very soon. Down a rook very soon because I'm losing the knight. And nothing is probably going to save me here. So what I ended up doing, which is actually the correct decision, I played this move knight takes c5. And my opponent's reaction was very natural because I'm threatening all sorts of discoveries, right? Trying to pick up this queen. So he played the move king d8. Okay. So how do we play now? What do? How do we proceed? This is a key position. We're down something. We're down what? Exchange? Yeah. But I have some pawns in return. So materially, I'm doing great. Material-wise, I'm doing very well. But it's not over. Opponent is still fighting. And they actually are putting decent resistance, although they have almost no time. And how do we play in this position? Yeah, I remember I spent decent amount of time here to understand what I should do. Because if you have time, honestly, you should calculate. You should spend a lot of time understanding what is happening. Because it's not as simple as it looks like. Knight b7, if queen takes, you can pin. You could try. But again, you're giving up a knight and then a bishop in order to get a rook. That's not a good exchange for you. You don't want to do that. The suggestion is this, that, to pick up that rook. But this rook is useless. When you compare it to this beautiful knight on c5, you don't want to just give this knight up to get that rook. And you're giving up this bishop too. So I can go something like queen e7 check. I can force the queens off. And then after you take my rook, I can take it back with something. Doesn't matter with what. And then I'm going to take this guy. And you just gave up a lot of pieces. So that's not good. Maybe giving up the rook for the knight would have been a better chance. So the suggestion is maybe this was better for him. It could have been a good move. But what's your idea after I go dc5? I'm attacking your queen. You have to go somewhere, right? Say you give a check or something. Then I just run out of the check. And I'm going to go rook e1 next. So your queen is very exposed. And this is not going to help you. If you go queen e4 or something, trying to look for counterplay, rook e1 is going to shut everything down. So you're not going to be able to defend. So the rook sack would not be enough, actually. King d8 is probably the most logical move to get out of everything. Okay, so what do we do now? What do we play now? Now that we're in this. No, you're good. GM title is not that easy to get. f3, king f2. Interesting idea. So you want to sacrifice some stuff. Interesting. f3, and if takes, king f2. Bishop a6 is another suggestion, which definitely is a possibility. I do remember looking at this actually. Let me see. Let me try to remember what I was thinking here. Bishop a6. Bishop a6. This is probably a good move too. This is probably a good move too. What happens if I go like rook c6? You want to go knight b7? Bishop b5? But what's the idea of bishop b5? Isn't it a free bishop? Can I not? I know you suggested it multiple times. Isn't this free? Am I missing something? To me, this looks like a free bishop. Maybe I'm wrong. Or bishop b5 at a different moment, maybe? Because this is completely free. Bishop b7. Oh, what? Oh, you mean after rook c6, bishop b7. Okay, that's a different story. Bishop b5 alone is a different story. So two different suggestions. Bishop a6 to b7 versus bishop b5. Which I think bishop a6 is interesting. Let's actually check it with the engine, what it says. It's winning. Bishop a6 is completely winning. It's +4. Bishop b5 is definitely not. It's losing. So bishop a6 would have won the game. But, of course, the viewers know me, right? The move I played is probably something you guys can guess. If I told you that it's my favorite move, I think everyone's going to just type it in the chat immediately. After seeing so many games with this move, everyone's going to be like, okay, now we know what he played. So yeah, you guys are right. I want to improve this rook, right? I want to bring the rook into the game. And the whole f3, king f2 suggestion, or like the bishop out suggestion, okay, I don't actually need the bishop out for the rook on a1 to come to the game. So I did play this move, king d2. My idea is just bring the rook over to e1 and just play. Like, just improve my rook on a1. That's not doing anything. And yeah. So my opponent played the move knight h4. It's a very logical move. He's threatening to take my pawn on g6, but he's also threatening to play the move knight f3 check, which will be maybe painful if I'm not careful enough. Looks like Paul Murphy playing. Yeah, that's kind of the point, I would say. Like I like to play chess from that era type of stuff, because I like this type of improvising and tactical and creative stuff. Here I played the move bishop d3, just calm, developing my bishop. If knight f3, I'm gonna go king c2. Exactly, my king is gonna be super safe. There is no bishop f5 or anything, so I'm just making sure my king is safe first. And I don't want to play rook e1 because he has knight f3. Oops, not bishop f3, knight f3. So maybe I'm actually threatening this move rook h1 and then try to go from here, right? So my opponent plays knight takes g6, and I actually don't want any counterplay. I just get rid of that bishop, he takes back, and I play rook e1. I am all out for my opponent's king and trying to create something from this position. I mean, there are definitely other ways to play this position, but I thought bishop d3, bring the rook, make it simple. Knight g6 is attacking the bishop on f4, so I make sure that I don't fall for anything. I take it, and then rook e1. And when you think about it, all my pieces are active. They are participating, and this guy was not participating, but now it is participating. So I have achieved a lot. I'm down an exchange, but I have 2 pawns for it. So I have a lot of material too. Material is definitely even, but my king is much more safer compared to like my enemy king. So we are happy. And in this position, my opponent played the move rook g8. They are sort of trying to defend their back rank in this position, which definitely is a good attempt, but it's not something you want to play. At least it definitely feels like a desperate attempt to, like, I don't know, play something like rook here or something. Why not rook c6? Rook c6 definitely could have been a move. Trying to sort of stop maybe knight e6 or something. But this loses too. It actually loses on the spot, because I have this move knight b7 check. So he was covering this square, and if you take it with the queen, I go queen f8 check. Your king cannot go there because my bishop is guarding it. Your king cannot step on the e file, it has to go up. And here rook e7 is mate, so maybe that's just a fancier one, but there is also queen e8 mate, multiple mates. So you don't have to take my knight, you can definitely go here, try to escape. But now I have this move, rook e8 check. If you go to d7, I have queen e7 mate. And if you take, I go rook b8, checkmate as well. So mating with the rook all the time, almost. So my opponent played the move rook g8 to guard the f8 square. But now this rook no longer guards another critical square actually in the position. It doesn't guard this square on f6. And you might be like, why does f6 play any role in this position? e7 is not guarded, but there is no immediate access to e7. But the critical square actually is the square f6. And the idea is that I go knight b7 check here. If you take it with the queen, I go queen d6 check. You cannot step on the e file once again. And after queen blocks with the d7, I told you this f6 square was weak. I take, you cannot escape because I'm protecting everything. You have to block with the queen, and then this is mate. So here, what happened after rook g8, knight b7, we established that you cannot take it. My opponent played the move king up to d7, and I played my rook just was on a1. Now it's on e7 in 2 moves. I didn't have to make plenty of moves with this rook. The rook joined the party, king c6, and here How do you end the game? I'll ask the viewers. It's the last move of the game, and my opponent resigned after this. What do we do? Bishop d6. No. You gotta be... Rook joined the match in overtime and scored the goal. Basically, yeah. Everything was played, and then, yep, queen a4 check. Knight a5 is good too, but queen a4. And my opponent resigned because he has to block with queen a5. I would have played queen b5, sorry. I would have played knight a5, king b6, rook b7 check, king a6, queen b5. It would have been mate. But after queen a4, my opponent was like, okay, I had enough. And that was it. That was game. And yeah, this is definitely one of the best games I've played in my chess career. Definitely the best game I played in the London. And I think this is the only game I will have time for because it was such a long and fighting and crazy game. But I do have more London games, which I probably will show on Thursday, hopefully. So yeah, I thought this would be super entertaining because although I've analyzed it several times, I've never done it in like a very crowded scenery. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun playing it and also analyzing it. Definitely there are other key moments which I might have missed, but I just want to go back to this moment where we talked about castles, meeting it with king d2. This is probably the highlight of the game you can remember. The rest is like fun too, but this was, if this had been played, I think it would have been brilliancy. And let me actually see if the Lichess computer suggests king d2. It probably will not, so let's see. It doesn't see it. So my computer currently says bishop h6 plus 2.2, and any other move is not good. But as far as I remember, I analyzed it with the computer later. It did give king d2. So let me make the move king d2. So it gives zeros, and it's confused. Now it's plus 2.4, and it will probably take over from there. And it's way more than that. Now it's plus 3. So it I think is the best move, but it fails to see it. So it's just not deep enough for the engine to understand. But it's okay. It's fine. They don't have to understand the depth of king d2. But with a strong engine, you can always verify that king d2 is the best move. So, all right, everyone. Thank you for watching the stream. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you were entertained. And maybe you will play this line with the g4 variations. Maybe you'll play this line one day and remember this game. But until next time, people, take care and have a good night.